I moved into this apartment building on the outskirts of the city in late autumn. A typical European neighborhood, gray apartment blocks, trimmed lawns, and silence after 9 in the evening. Nothing unusual. That's exactly why I chose this place. I wanted peace. The first week was normal. I left for work early in the morning and came back after dark. On the third day, I noticed him. A man was standing near the entrance of our building, just standing there. He wasn't smoking, he wasn't on his phone, he wasn't pacing. He wore a dark jacket and jeans without a hat, despite the cold. I assumed he was waiting for someone who lived there and didn't think much of it. The next day, he was there again. Around the same time, about 8 in the evening. He stood slightly away from the door as if he didn't want to block the entrance. When I approached, he stepped back to let me pass. We didn't say a word. On the third day, he was there again. It started to bother me, but I tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe his girlfriend lived in the building. Maybe he was waiting for a taxi. Maybe he was a new tenant and hadn't received his key yet. On the fourth day, I worked late and returned home much later than usual. It was almost 10. I felt relieved, thinking he only came at a specific time, but he was there. This time, he stood closer to the door. When I approached, he looked directly at me. His face wasn't threatening. It wasn't strange. It looked tired. Once again, he silently stepped aside. I went inside the building, and as I closed the door, I noticed that he didn't leave. He stayed there, watching the glass door until the elevator took me upstairs. The next day, I asked my downstairs neighbor if he had seen the man. He shrugged and said he hadn't paid attention. Lots of people pass through here, he said. A few days later, I noticed something new. The man started showing up earlier, sometimes as early as 6 in the evening. Sometimes he stayed almost the entire evening. He never went inside. He never spoke. He just stood there. One evening, I went out to take the trash and saw him standing right next to the door. He was looking at the building, not the entrance. When I approached, he flinched as if he hadn't noticed me. For the first time, we were standing very close to each other. I said hello. He didn't respond. He didn't even look at me. That night, I slept poorly. I kept thinking someone was standing outside my apartment door. A week later, I noticed that my mailbox was sometimes left open. Nothing was missing, but I was sure it hadn't been like that before. I started locking my apartment door every time, even if I stepped out briefly. On Friday, I came home earlier than usual. It was still light outside, and he wasn't there. I felt a strange sense of relief. But as I approached the entrance, I saw the door slowly closing, as if someone had just gone inside. I stopped. I looked through the glass. He was standing inside, right by the mailboxes. We stared at each other through the glass door for several seconds. Then he turned away and walked toward the stairwell. I didn't go inside. I turned around and walked away. Later, I contacted the building management and described the situation. They checked the security cameras. The footage showed the man coming to the building every evening, standing there, sometimes for an hour, sometimes longer. They recognized him. He used to live in the building. He had been evicted months earlier after multiple complaints from neighbors. He suffered from a mental disorder and believed his apartment was still there on the 3rd floor. He was coming home. I was moved to a different entrance. I never saw him again, but sometimes when I come home late at night, still look at the entrance door first before I get too close.